you guys heard of land acknowledgements? It's this idea that we should start every like ceremony or government proceeding by acknowledging that we're on some tribe's like land, right? So I was at a friend's wedding not too long ago, and his mom insisted on doing, and she's like a crazy woke lady, and she insisted on doing, you know, the rainbow tattoo, the whole bit. She insisted on doing a land acknowledgement before we could get on with the ceremony, right? And it was one of those kind of moments. It's just such obvious virtue signaling, right? You just go up, oh, I acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Mohawk people. It's like, lady, you just sold your house. You didn't give $1 to the Mohawk people or whatever tribe used to, you know, run on the land that your house was on. You've bought and sold a couple of houses. I'm pretty sure you haven't given a single cent to the native peoples that used to, you know, reside on those pieces of land. You definitely pocketed that money. Here's why it's asinine bullshit, right? It's asinine bullshit because the people that insist on land acknowledgements, the people that like doing them and reading them, they want to be seen by everyone to be virtuous, but they don't actually want to do the work of being virtuous. They don't actually want to do the hard work of going and helping people in those communities and actually doing things to better those people's lives. They just want to talk. Look at me. Look what a good person I am. I'm acknowledging that this was once the Mohawks' land, right? But here I am. I'm living in this country. I'm living in this first world nation that is Canada. You know, I'm so much better than all those evil people that came before me. Those people that built the roads and electricity and, you know, created all this agriculture that feeds millions and millions of people and all this infrastructure that makes it so wonderful that we can enjoy a first world lifestyle, a lifestyle that is like in the top 1% of everybody in the world. I'm so much better than all those evil people, all those ancestors of mine that came before me and exist so that I can be here mouthing this, you know, inane nonsense, this virtue signaling bullshit, right? Here's my land acknowledgement. I'm on land right now, and it's a beautiful piece of land. I really enjoy it, and I appreciate being here. Here's the thing. I acknowledge that this is my land. I acknowledge that God gave me this land, and he gave this land to others before me, and he will give this land to others after me. While I'm here, I will take care of this land. While I'm here, I will improve upon this land. And I try to do so every year, and I do so in a meaningful way. And when I'm gone, one day, someone else will enjoy this land. And that's what I acknowledge, right? This idea that it's inherently someone's land because their ancestors 500 years ago maybe walked across it or shot a deer on it, or maybe they set their, wigwam up or whatever on the land for, 6 months. It's like, no, that's not how it works, right? If you wanted to apply that concept of land acknowledgements, the entire world is stolen. The native tribes that lived here did not coexist in this state of, blissful peace and harmony. They constantly warred among each other. They constantly killed each other. They constantly stole things from each other, including hunting land. And, they even took slaves among each other. I'll tell you a little story. They don't tell you this in history class, right? About the stuff that the native tribes did to each other. That's why the native tribes were willing to ally, with the British and the French and all the other colonial powers that came over here against one another, because some of these tribes truly hated each other. And then some of them got along, right? Just humans are humans, no matter where they are. We have this like weird ideology that they were like innocent forest people and they just loved each other. And listen, I know a lot of native people. They're cool people, man. Like, I like them. They're human beings, just like I'm a human being, just like anybody's a human being. They weren't like these blissful forest people that lived in peace and harmony until we came and raped the land. That's absolute horseshit. That's not what happened. Did atrocities happen? Yes. But guess what? Atrocities have been happening since the dawn of time. Man had been committing atrocities against one another. But fundamentally, we live in a first world nation because those that came before us sacrificed, they bled, they died, and they did acts of amazing bravery. They committed acts of backbreaking labor and ingenuity. It's why we get to live in this fucking first world country that we live in. It's why you get to, you have the time to come up with inane ideas like land acknowledgements, right? So here's the thing, right? I'll tell you this little story. My father-in-law actually bought a piece of land. He's a land developer. I'm not going to say which one he is, right? So he bought a piece of land, and they actually ended up finding human remains on that piece of land, all right? Now, these human remains, turns out, were like 900 years old, and it was like women, children, men, and the remains were like scattered over like a wide area, right? And they were in pieces, like they weren't complete skeletons. And what they found was that this was actually a native village. And another native tribe had come in and killed all of them, and they had cut their bodies into pieces because they didn't want them, even the children, right? They didn't want them to, they believed that if they cut them into pieces, not only were they dead now, they wouldn't be together in the afterlife, like that their bodies would be apart in the afterlife, as in this life, so in the afterlife, right? So they even cut the children and the women into pieces. This is humans, right? Humans are capable of acts of great virtue and acts of terrible evil. And it goes across the board, right? If by some weird chance, right? If by some chance our ancestors had been the ones living here, let's say like, you know, Caucasian people, which aren't my ancestors. Well, they're half of my ancestors, but that's another story altogether, right? So let's say the Caucasian people were living here and they were hunter-gatherers. And, you know, the native peoples, you know, were the ones that ended up, you know, becoming agrarian cultures, and, you know, that, you know, they civilized faster and they came up with technology faster and they came over here. Do you think they would have treated our ancestors any better? Of course not, because human beings are human beings, and we've been human beings since the fucking dawn of time. So I don't know why we're engaging in this asinine bullshit. Instead, what you should be doing is being appreciative that your ancestors lived, died, were successful, and also suffered, so that you could be here now enjoying the fruits of what they went through, whether it was good or whether it was bad. And believe me, your ancestors had a healthy dose of both. Be thankful and stop being a bullshit artist. If you truly believe that you're living on someone else's land, give it back and shut the fuck up.